recording early, and then I'll put you in the room, okay? All right, here we go. I gotta find out where. Put in waiting room. There we go. All right, so you and I are fixing to kick this off, and we got to come up with a good intro. Got the whole intro leading in, so just imagine applause, and the applause ends, and now we go. Kathy, what's up? How are you today?
Hey, it's Tuesday. How you doing?
It's Tuesday. Do you do Taco Tuesday?
Actually, I did Taco Monday yesterday. So.
Didn't think about that till you said it, and now that's where we're at. And I'm thinking about what I'm going to cook for dinner, so maybe I'll do tacos. But I got a new wok for Christmas. My kids gave me a wok, and
nice.
I'm learning it. Never cooked in one. We did pad thai last night. I got to learn the wok, but that's what we're doing. So in Decoding Our Lives, I have to figure out how to use a wok. Okay,
that's easy. Easy. It's basically a Chinese frying pan.
That's it. That's it. Hey, you know what? You have arranged for a wonderful guest to come on. This is going to be exciting for me. And this is Michelle Karén. She and in her bio, I'm just going to read her bio here. French and Finnish born Michelle Karén has lived in 7 countries on 3 continents. She became an astrologer at the age of 14. That's kind of nuts. Wrote 10 books on astrology, yoga, living food nutrition. So when she sees me, she's going to completely panic. Okay. She is a highly sought after international conference speaker. She has been invited by many top radio and television shows around the world and was actually selected to be the astrologer at the 46th Academy Awards in Hollywood. Dun, 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 dun.
Literally astrologer to the stars.
There we go. She is also a shaman initiated by the, I'm going to screw this up, but I think I get it right. Caro Master Shamans in Peru, where she has been leading journeys since 2004. She founded the Lanke Mune Yache School of Shamanic Studies online in Phoenix, Arizona, and Helsinki, Finland. She lives in the US, Finland, and France. I'm already dying to meet this girl and just love the opportunities she's had through life. So you ready to talk to her?
I am.
All right, let's get her in here. Let's bring her on. All right, let me see. And here we go. Michelle, welcome to Decoding Our Lives. What's happening?
Thank you so much, Rob and Kathy. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you.
Your bio is amazing, you know, so that's, I'm just so impressed. And you know what? I'm trying so hard to learn astrology.
You are?
And my wife is after me so hard because I do tarot. My other show is Tarot with an Attitude. Okay. And one of the things though I have is back in the 40s, I had a stroke. So my short-term memory and trying to memorize a whole bunch of stuff, I just have a problem with it. So, you know, I'm hoping you can give me a real quick, easy way to remember stuff because I love it. And I'm going to have some more questions for you on it. Kathy, what, I mean.
Okay, so let's start. There's a lot of naysayers out there who don't believe in this. They think it's woo-woo, there's no science behind it. And since we have this show called Decoding Our Lives, which is making sense out of life, maybe you can bring in some enlightenment of how does this apply to our life? How are we influenced by, you know, the magnetic signal, should we say? What can you tell us for somebody who said, I don't believe in that?
Well, you know what? I don't believe in astrology either. I'm going to shock you,
Okay.
But I keep seeing it working. So it does work. You don't need to believe. It's like looking at the sky and saying the sky is blue. You don't need to believe the sky is blue. You look at it, it is blue. Unless you have color blindness or something. But no, astrology, and that's the amazing thing is that there was one experiment that was done by Michel Karén, who was a French statistician, and he was dead set, astrology is BS, it doesn't exist, it's not true, I'm going to debunk it scientifically once and for all. He was a statistician, so he started taking, astrology says, well, Athletes have Mars, the planet Mars, very prominent in their chart, and the chart is a picture of the heavens when we were born, for our first breath, for the place, the time, and the date we were born. So it's very specific to each person. It's not something general at all. And so he took all the charts of 3,000 athletes and looked at the position of Mars in their natal chart. Then astrology says actors and politicians have Jupiter prominent, which is quite interesting if you think about it.
I don't want to think about it.
And then he took another 3,000 to 5,000 charts of famous politicians, and he kept proving astrology over and over again. So because he was dead set on disproving it, he said, okay, let's start all over. This time he took 20,000 athletes, 20,000 politicians, and he had 3 or 4 different statisticians working with him. And you know what? They proved it even more. And it was so horrible for him that sadly he committed suicide because he couldn't handle it. So
wow. So
that's
he
one.
disproved his own theory.
So he actually did prove astrology, and he was trying to scientifically disprove astrology, and he obtained the opposite results. So astrologers in the world love this guy because he gave us, the validation for what we do. And that's not the only experiment, because, for example, it is said that when the moon is full, for example, more people enter psychiatric hospitals, people go nuts. More
Worked
people
at one. That is true. Was a cop for almost 14 years.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, well, Kathy, you are a moon baby. You are a Cancer, so of course, you would react to the moon very strongly. And also, a lot of surgeons will refuse systematically to operate when the moon is full because people bleed a lot more. And then there is another rule in astrology that, depending, each sign rules a specific part of the body, and it is said that we should never touch with metal the part of the body where ruled by the sign. In this, for example, let's make it clearer. Aries rules the head, so we should never operate on the head, eyes, or anything, or teeth, or anything like that when the moon is in Aries. So it's a very simple rule. And I had met this man, and he's like, oh, astrology is so BS, blah, 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 blah. And he was going to get operated from the neck, a thyroid thing. And I said, well, do you want me to look at my ephemeris? And it's very quick. So I looked and I said, don't do it. Don't do it. And on the date he was supposed, and he's like, oh, so BS, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Next time I heard from him, the guy was dead. He had died on the operation table. So these are very significant and real things. And people who say that, oh, that doesn't exist, well, they have never read an astrology book, and they are just proving their ignorance. That's all they're doing. Because
I agree with you. And what I want people to take away from this right now, this is not being psychic. This is not tuning in. This is learning your environment and learning what effect things have on us. I know this. I learned my first 20 years. At 20, I became a police officer, and I was about 14 years in that. One of the things I learned that during the full moon, and we all have to remember, the moon affects our gravitational, it affects the tides, it affects everything else. So a lot of times what I read was they found out that in a full moon, like you said, people's blood pressure goes up because the gravitational pull on the earth is stronger. So therefore we actually can weigh a little heavier. Different things occur. And if those things can affect our life, why can't other planets be involved as well? So I'm totally behind you on that. And I think that's a great way I'm glad of that example.
I got another question since you mentioned how can it affect us. So I know there's outer planets and I know there's personal planets.
Yes.
Can you explain what that is? And can you tell us which planets are which and maybe give us an example of how that affects somebody out there?
Absolutely, that's a very good question. Thank you, Kathy. So they are the inner planets are the ones that move very fast. So that's the sun. The sun and the moon are not technically planets; they're luminaries, but we consider them planets. And then we have Mercury, Venus, Mars. And that's pretty much it. These are the inner personal planets. They go fast. They don't stay long in a sign. They move very quickly. Now we have the threshold planets, Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter has to do with expansion. Saturn has to do with restriction. And then we have the outer planets, which are the generational planets. So Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto that are very slow moving planets. For example, Pluto can stay in one sign for 10 to 12 years. Neptune can stay sometimes even longer in one sign. So these are going to affect everybody because, you know, when we talk about affecting the planets, we need to think of it in both terms. Like the planets influence us, but we also influence the planets. And if you look at what was going on in recent years with Pluto, for example, that was very slow moving, it's going faster and faster through the signs. And this year we have something very unique because Jupiter has been 1 year in one sign. And this year, 2022, it's going to be in 2 signs throughout the year, which is also very new. And if you think of it, to me, as you know, planets are like beings. Like, you know, you have a friend, your friend is going to influence you by the opinions, the perception, their life story, you know, who they are, and you are going to affect your friend also because of who you are. And maybe you have a habit that they think, oh, this is so cool, I'll do that also, or I'll do it this way also, or I'll learn your language because, you know, I don't speak your language. Or so everything has a gravitational field, an energy field, and planets are no exception to that. Like animals, you know, if we have a little cat or a little dog, they're going to affect us also. We're going to have somebody to talk to. We're going to have somebody to cuddle with. We're going to have, you know, this connection.
All right,
So
I got a question for you on that.
Yes, go ahead.
And this is going to sound silly, and I'm not.
No, there's no silly question.
Everybody knows me. No. I'm very sarcastic, and I can be a straight up ass. But this is legitimate, okay? If all living beings are affected by horoscope signs, things like that, you know, the planets, animals are too. So therefore, when we connect with certain pets, is it because we have a connection with that pet on a planetary scale, and other pets we do not? So when I'm looking to buy a dog, should I look at when that dog was born versus just, oh, he's so cute? You know?
Absolutely. You should look at when that cat or that dog was born, but you should also look at the birth date of your house, of your home, because that also is going to affect you. And everything has a chart. So everything that was born, whether it's a cauliflower or a house was built or a project is begun or a cat or a dog or a jellyfish is born, they all have a birth chart, which is a crystallization of a time in space, and that's unique to that being. And that's why people have also different destinies, and that's why we have affinities with certain people and others not so much, you know. And like I had a Leo cat, and my cat was a Leo. I mean, he would literally, and at the time I was living in an apartment building, he would ask every day to go out, and he would put himself in the middle of the corridor, I'm not kidding, and he had a tenor voice, and he was like, meow, I am here. And you know what? He knew everybody in the building, and he was invited, and people would open their door, and he would go in, visit, go out, go to the next. And I was at that time wanting to be rather anonymous, so I was trying to avoid my neighbors as much as I could. And people were always laughing when they saw me. And I realized that my cat had a social life that was unbelievable. That there you go, Leo cat, you know, it was not going to be like hidden under.
For those people who don't know the characteristics of the Leo, I understand it's all about them. So you can elaborate on that if you want, but they need to be the sort of center of the show.
Well, actually, there's a bit of a misconception about Leos because people think, oh, Leos are all about, you know, flattery and wanting to be big and wanting to be admired. And well, actually, it's because they are very insecure but they still want to be the king and the queen, and they need that feedback desperately from others to make them realize they are great, they are amazing, they are beautiful, they are incredible. So it's not coming from ego-centered, you know, wanting to get approval, but it's about coming from a certain insecurity, inner insecurity.
Thank you.
But my cat was definitely a Leo.
Wow. So again, and what I do, I don't know if you know this or not, I have a master's degree in social work. I am a clinical social worker. It is one of those things I do in the evenings where I work with people, couples, things like that. And, you know, one of the things that drives me nuts about our world here in mental health is they've gotten big on this evidence-based practice. When I started bringing tarot into that, people just thought I had lost my mind because there's no evidence base to it. But what you're telling me too is if I've got a Leo, if I could do some more star research with some of my clients, I could actually see where some of their personality traits are coming from or where they're internalizing.
All right, I got a question to follow up for Michelle. So I understand it's not only our birth sign, but it's our rising sign, which I understand is how we present ourselves, and our moon, which is very influential, is about our emotions. So that there are keys that actually influences more than what they consider our natal sign. Now, maybe Michelle can expand on that. Because
that's a very good explanation, Kathy, because we are very complex and we could even have contradictions within ourselves. You know, we could be Cancer, and that's very homey and very wanting food and cooking and family and home and all those beautiful things, nurturing and cherishing our loved ones. And then we could have an Aries rising, and that makes us very dynamic and impulsive and moving forward, which is totally different from being a Cancer. Right. And then all the planets are also, so you are right, the ascendant is the degree of the sign that was rising above the horizon at the time and for the date and the place in terms of latitude and longitude of where we were born. So you see how detailed this is. So even if somebody, and every 4 minutes, a different degree rises on the horizon. So if somebody was born exactly at the same place, at the same time, on the same day, then they will have the same chart. And that actually has been proven. These are called Astral Twins. And those Astral Twins have absolutely parallel destinies, even though they are from completely different parents and completely different social everything, they have still a parallel destiny. They get sick at the same time, they marry a person with the same first name, they have the same kind of children, you know, the same.
I want you to think that on February 3rd at 7 o'clock in the morning, it was a Saturday, there were probably thousands of other idiots born like me. You know, so, you know, I'm sorry for all the divorce rates. I'm sorry, you know.
I wouldn't say you're an idiot. Okay, erase that already.
Well, I was going to use another word, but
that's not a good definition already. But the thing is that it would be interesting if you could find those people, and you would probably be surprised at, I mean, I'm sure you would be very surprised at how your destinies are fitting with each other. And to go back to what Kathy was saying, And for example, our moon is going to determine how we feel nurtured. You know, somebody with a moon in Sagittarius, they're going to be nurtured by somebody coming up with 2 tickets to Thailand, you know, or to Australia,
Right.
or somewhere. Somebody who has a moon in Cancer, they will be nurtured by their friend inviting them for dinner. You know, so we all have those different things that make us feel good and homey. And then Venus for a woman is how she is as a woman in love, and for a man it's a kind of woman he's attracted to. And for Mars is where, you know, how we act and how we move forward in life, and also represents sexuality. So that's the partner that would fit us, you know, sexually. And for a man, this is who he is as a man. And then Jupiter is everything having to do with abundance. How do we deal with abundance? So for example, Jupiter in Capricorn, we may feel a little stingy or a little careful with money. Jupiter in Sag will be super generous with money, you know, and trust in life that, you know, when I don't have any, it will come back somehow. So we have different attitudes, and that's why it's very important to know ourselves first. And also when we get in relationship, because, you know, it's very rare to find two charts that fit perfectly. You know, we may have great communication, sex may be great, but then, how we deal with daily life, a little different. You know, one likes to be a nomad and the other one likes to have regular meal hours and the house super clean, and, you know, so but once we understand our differences, then we can accept each other so much better. And because we know ourselves, we know this is what we are. And that's what got me into astrology, actually, because when I was 14 and growing up, you know, my parents were like, whoa, what's wrong with you? You know, and this and that and the other. And I read Linda Goodman's Sun Signs, and I'm like, hey, this is who I'm supposed to be. I'm exactly in alignment. I'm a Capricorn. I'm exactly in alignment with Capricorn. This is who I am, for real. And that made me feel so good. And then I started reading about my parents. You know, my mother was a Scorpio, my father was a Taurus, my sister was an Aries, you know, and I'm reading all that stuff and I'm like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. People who have never met Linda Goodman, whom I have never met, who has no idea who I am, can describe me better than anybody who has lived with me for 14 years. I was 14 at the time. And that's how I started astrology. I said, whoa, I need to study this thing. This is crazy.
And you know what? And that goes with my dad, God rest his soul, was a Baptist minister. And when I got into doing this and things like that, one of our last big fights were people getting married do not need to go see a preacher. They need to go see somebody that can explain their personality attributes so you know what you're getting into. And a lot of times opposites are very good together as long as you know and you're already prepared. You're going to need your time at home. I'm going to need my time out at the bowling alley. And can we mix this or whatnot? And if you know that going in, so that makes very good sense with the planetary energies, the energies that are coming from them, you know, so it lets me know I'm not as nuts as I think I am with some of this stuff with the energy.
Well, and I'm also saying there's a compatibility chart. So Michelle has the ability to take, as an example, your chart and Jillian's chart and see and give you an analysis of how this relationship works. She can tell that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So I will never say that two people are not matched with each other, because if you fell in love and you are living together, there's already something, right? But my job will be to say, well, maybe pay attention to that or be aware of this, you know? And that's also very valuable with when you look at the charts of children and parents, because you can have a parent that's like super disciplined and wants things a certain way, and you have like a completely dreamy Pisces child who just wants to do music and dream all day, and it doesn't mean that they won't be a super successful one day composer, but they are not going about it like a Capricorn or Scorpio parent would, you know. They are not like this. They are just like, let's float and see where it goes. So it's very valuable to understand that, because, parents tend to do the best they can, but they do it according to their personality, which is probably not the personality of their children. I had a Scorpio mother. I'm a Capricorn. It worked for me. She was very disciplined. You have to do this and that and that. Well, that's who I was. So I was fine with that. But my sister, who was an Aries, had a very hard time with that. And she was always trying to do crazy stuff just to get out of that structure. So our education worked better for me than for her. Well, eventually, she found her way, but it was harder for her in many ways.
Okay, so I've got another question. We've been talking about kind of what astrology means for us personally, but we are in this huge transition, humanity is. And I am hoping you can give some insight into the listeners to what astrology tells us about 2022.
Well, I'll tell you this much. 2022 is definitely going to be a chaotic year, and we may see things we have never dreamt of ever seeing. We need to stay as put as possible during 2022, because people are going to start acting in pretty dramatic and crazy ways. And it's a year of the water tiger, which starts on the 1st of February 2022, ends on the 21st of January 2023. And already in normal times, and this is Chinese astrology, but already in normal times, it's a chaotic and extreme year. But this year it's going to be particularly intense. And especially there will be a lot of issues around water, because it's a water tiger. So be careful when, if you live by water or you go on water. Not to say that you should avoid that altogether. I'm personally taking people to Egypt, and we will be on the Nile River in September, October. So not to be in fear. It's not about fear, but just be aware. And there will be a lot of talks about water, what to do with water, how to clean water, how to, preserve maritime life and all that. Relationships are also going to be very volatile this year, and we have to be very careful even in family circumstances. And I'm talking also about, maybe family members, but also very close friends. They could put an enormous emotional pressure on us. And people could also go a little nuts if situations are not fitting their perceptions. So there will be a lot of people just blowing up because they have a certain perception of what should be or what the world should look like. And if circumstances or people are not fitting into that, they could literally, go off the charts.
That's funny, because I have been challenging people since November to challenge your own perceptions about what you think, especially with all the news stuff and everything. And I've been telling everybody, 2022 is going to be an optimal year to manifest, bring things out and do things, but it depends on the crap you drag with you from 2021 into it. And this is not if you're clinging to a lot of the conspiracy theories and things like that and driving this negativity into your life, it's going to get amped up. It's going to get amplified, and that's what you're bringing into your life. So
I agree.
I think that's where we're going. Now, that makes total sense. Now, I'm a tiger. Okay.
Ooh, good for you. That's a good year for you.
I'm a tiger. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure, because my numerically, I'm also an 11 this year.
But you're a water tiger because you're the water bear. So you're not only a tiger, but you're a water bear too.
Wow, this is excellent.
Yeah, I am. Like I said, I'm an Aquarian, so what does that mean? Is this a good year for me to play the lottery? Is this a good year? I don't know, but, and again, I'm coming at this not being sarcastic. It is some of those things that somebody that I want to learn astrology, but I can't hold it all. So I'm looking for that.
Okay, get my book, Rob, Astrology for Enlightenment, because when Simon & Schuster asked me to write that book, they wanted me to write an encyclopedia, but they wanted it to be for the layman, like I had to even explain what an eclipse is. And I'm like, wait, everybody knows what an
Oh my
eclipse
goodness,
is. They
yeah.
said, and you know what they said to me? They said, no, they think it's a chewing gum. I'm like, what?
Okay.
I didn't even know there was an eclipse chewing gum. So anyway, that was where I was.
Okay.
But
Was that
but
West Virginia checking in? I don't know. Yeah.
Seriously, Rob, people think you have to memorize astrology. I disagree with that, and the way I explained astrology in my book, it's like the basic book on astrology is observe nature, because everything has a sign, everything. So I divided each sign in the colors, the flavors, the perfumes, the plants, the animals, the archetypes, the stones, everything that connects to that sign. And if you start to observe those things in nature, you are going to be understanding the sign. It's not going to be, the planet. It's not going to be something that comes out of thin air, They don't, astrologers, and I'm glad you said that, are not psychics necessarily. If you are, of course, it's extra plus, but you don't need to be psychic at all. You don't even need to have any intuition. You're just reading astrologos, the language of the stars. It is a language. And the same as we read a book, we don't need to be psychic to read a book. Well, that's what astrologers do. They read the stars, and you don't need to be psychic for that. And you don't need to memorize anything. You need to understand the underlying principles. Because imagine, how did the astrologers in Chaldea begin? Well, they thought, oh, this is going on in the stars, and this is what's happening on Earth. This is the time of the year, and this is how people are. So everything was connected to everything. And that's how they started saying, oh, well, Aquarians are people who love people, who are humanitarians. So you mentioned you were a social worker. Well, right on, you are exactly in line with, and even as a police officer, because you have to deal with people and situations. So that also is a humanitarian work in many ways. So that goes with that.
Okay.
And I know Kathy is a great cook, and I have been blessed to experience her amazing cooking. I said that I loved Baba Orom's. I've lived in the US for a long time, but as you can hear, I'm French. And she dished up an amazing recipe of Baba Orom for me. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So, but that's her
That was
Cancer, wanting to nurture, wanting to help, wanting to welcome people,
Yeah. Okay, so I got a historical question. I understand that the three wise men were actually astrologers.
Absolutely.
So I want to know what was in the sky that they saw that gave and I understood they, I guess, started on their camels, and it took them like 3 years to get there. But what was it in the sky that these three wise men, astrologers, noticed?
There was a very, very unique and very rare eclipse, and that's what they were looking at. So, and there was a very special configuration in the sky. What exactly it was, I cannot tell you that, I don't know, but they were definitely guided by a very special cosmic event. And that's how also Nostradamus was, doing his predictions, is that he was saying, when Venus will be in this position, when that will be in that position, because that's the beauty of astrology, is that you can project in the past and you can project in the future. We have ephemerides, that give us the positions of the planets every single day. And you can see when there is a unique aspect. Like there was a unique aspect in 2020 when there was the Jupiter-Pluto-Saturn conjunction in Capricorn. That happened 2000 years ago. So that was very unique, and that was a complete change of consciousness. That's when all our lives just collapsed. Everything we thought was real dissolved. Everything we thought was immutable all of a sudden was in chaos. So this was a time where all of a sudden all the masks fell which was interesting because that's also the time where everybody had to start wearing masks. And that the true colors of people started revealing themselves. And it's going to be even more amplified this year with the Year of the Tiger. I mean, you're going to see there's going to be scandals that are, hiding corruption. The fake news, this has been going on for a long time, but particularly since 2012 and until 2025, when Neptune is in Pisces, that's a time of like, everything is blurry. You hear one thing and it's opposite. You don't know who to believe. Everything seems to be very nebulous. There seems to be a script if you open different TV channels. It's probably best to ditch your TV anyway. But it's really a time where, there's a lot of lies, there's a lot of scammers, there's a lot of people pretending to be spiritual, a lot of people pretending to be knowledgeable. There's a lot of distraction going on. Like now, if you Google something, next thing you know, you're into something that has nothing to do with what you were researching.
Yep.
And that's the reality we're in right now. Everything is like, ooh.
What
And
I
then
find interesting about that too is just what you're saying. We as people start to explore and they open up, they're allowing the people to lead them spiritually that have more of a political base that they follow than just listening to their heart and listening to it. And so therefore I watch a lot of these tarot readers. They're packed out that you can't get in, but none of their predictions have come true. They're all saying, this date, this time, this is going to happen. And they're all based on a political thing. So everybody's just blindly following them rather than going, wait a minute, God did give us a brain. Let's check into this. Does this even remotely make sense? And I see that happening a lot where people, like, they're not being free. They think they're being free, but they're letting somebody else lead their spiritual life that is really more in control of their political life. And
I agree with you, Rob, and that's very concerning right now because I think, and that's going to be a big issue in 2022 that we're just starting this year. But Jupiter is very strong this year. It's the strongest planet for the whole year, and the major aspects are touching Uranus in February, Neptune in April, and Pluto in May. And the belief system of many people is going to be shattered. They are going to be blown out of the water. And that's a very dangerous situation because you take somebody's home, somebody's job, somebody's relationship, even somebody's money. Okay, it's not good. But if you take somebody's belief away, that can be tragic. And this year, Jupiter is going to be in Pisces and in Aries. So it's at the end of the cycle and the beginning of the cycle.
And we have so many people anchoring their life in a belief on both sides of the aisle. Let's even talk about politics or whatnot. We're not going to name names or anything else. But so many people left side and so many people right side have anchored their whole the idea of themselves into their political belief that as things don't happen that they thought were going to happen, and as things happen that they didn't think was going to happen, they're not going to know how to do it.
Not even right and left, but dark and white, the dark hat, the black hats and the white hats. If that begins to dissolve and things that are revealed to us that we just can't even believe. I can't believe that happened. I can't believe they're doing this. And that also shatters our beliefs of what we thought was true and our perceptions of things. So we've got all sorts of levels of this happening.
I agree. Like, just to give one example, and I don't want to get into politics, but when Trump was elected, people were going nuts and, oh my God, it's the end of the world, and they wanted to immigrate to Canada. And then all of a sudden they thought he was the best person in the world. And now people are again wondering, where is he? What is he exactly? So, and that's the reality, is that we don't know, so much is hidden, and Neptune in Pisces is very good at dissolving everything, making everything very confused. Everything, you have one thing and its opposite. You don't know who people are. You think they're a certain way and then they do something and you're like, wait a minute, how can that be? That's not who they were or what they were saying. And then we have this virus that, you know, you can catch without having any, you have no symptoms and you can transmit it to a bunch of people and nobody knows what was going on. That's again Neptune and Pisces. That's all. But the good news of Neptune and Pisces is that this is a time where we need to reconnect with our faith. And Jupiter in Pisces this year is really going to ask us to connect to our real faith, to God, to the divine, not to some channeler or some tarot reader or anybody. I mean, I'm not saying they're all bad. Some are very, very accurate and very good. And very real and very authentic and have great responsibility in what they say. But a lot of people are in spiritual imagination right now. You know, it's a time of false prophets. And they may be very well-meaning, all these people. I'm sure they are. You know, I don't think they are consciously misleading anybody, but their messages are questionable. Yeah. And people so need to believe in something. I mean, that's what drives our lives, to believe in something. And there's going to be revelations this year that are going to shock people out of the water, completely shock them. I mean, it will make them question everything, question their lives, question their goals, question everything, because all of a sudden it will be like, whoa.
So I would say, actually, that's a good thing, because when we are in the question, that's when new ideas, new thoughts, new beliefs, we sort of rewrite the script for our life and find out what's working and what's not. So in spite of it maybe sounding bad, it's actually probably a good thing.
It definitely is a good thing for those who will be open-minded enough to say, okay, let's look at things from a different perspective now that we have this new information. Right. But there will be people like, you know, when Jean-Michel Gauquelin proved astrology that he was trying to disprove, he couldn't handle it, he committed suicide. Yeah. So there's also going to be some people who can't handle what's going to happen. And we need to
agree. And I think a lot of people, they can't handle the fact that other people are challenging their belief. And again, right side or left side, who are you to challenge me? Who is
and you know, honestly, Rob, it's not a question of politics. It's not a question of right or left, Democrat, Republican, all that stuff. It's a question of light and dark. And this is what's going on right now. It is the final war, the final year, and mark my words, 2023, we're going to start seeing something very different, because the major planets, Saturn and Pluto, are changing signs. And that's going to start opening a whole new realm for humanity. But the end of 2022 is probably going to be the most difficult, chaotic year for a lot of people, not for everybody, but for a lot of people. And it's going to be a year where we will have to question everything. But it's light and dark. This is the war we are in. And we have been in this war since 2017. And 2017, 2022, it's this war. And we are in the last year of it. So take heart, you know, lay low. Yeah. Just be good in your life, good in your community, and try to stay away from all these dramas. But
I agree with you. And one of the things I've tried to tell people is, you know, there's a lot of people that don't want to believe there is a dark energy out there. And our very physics tells us for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You know, karma, if we believe in the Tao and the whole yin yang principle, it's not good or bad, but there is dark light. There are different things. And there's something trying to balance itself in this energy.
Absolutely.
What people have gotten
evil does exist. I mean, evil does exist. I mean, when you see horrible things, crimes and stuff happening, excuse me, there is evil in the world. Yeah, absolutely. And there is a karma. And those people who think they can get away with whatever, not happening. At one point, if it's not in this life, it will be in another, but something is coming back at them and it will bite them in the ass. It will end up coming back. There, and this year, because of Jupiter, Jupiter is the planet of justice, is the planet of integrity, and is the planet of really being transparent, of higher education. So there will be certainly stuff, reforms in education, the schooling system, because all these horrible dramas we've seen happening, tragedies we've been happening in the US schools. I mean, this should not exist. It should not exist. And then also religion. We may have some surprises that, you know, some religious figures are not all that they say they are. And maybe religion itself is questionable in some ways. I believe in spirituality, and, you know, I was baptized Protestant, and my grandfather was actually a Protestant priest. So I have like this religious background thing, but I believe in God, and I believe that, you know, and we may have a second coming this year. There could be something that really shows us the truth. It could be like 2000 years ago, you know, where we have a being coming and who is Christ, and that's quite possible. And actually, I read something amazing. A lot of Muslims are converting to Catholicism, to Christianity, because they had the Christ come in their dreams and tell them that. So there is something afoot. And I know we are protected. I know we're not going to blow up. You know, there are beings around who are watching very carefully humanity and monitoring things, and are going to bring. And that's Jupiter in Pisces this year. You know, there's going to be a renewal of faith, but it's going to be real faith. It's not going to be some channeler or some prophet coming and saying, oh, I'm this and that. There's going to be proof. It's going to be undeniable, absolutely undeniable.
Maybe that's what I'm feeling. And that's why I keep saying something's breaking free. Kathy, you had something?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think that we talk about consciousness, right? And that's also in this mix of light and dark. And as the consciousness, the first time since we've been on the planet, the consciousness is getting higher. And as consciousness gets higher, that will actually help people see through the lies and the deception that we could never see before. And that's sort of how the darkness will be revealed, because things that we've looked at for decades or centuries or a millennium, we've never been able to see through what the real story is. And I think that's also part of this planetary influence of the Pisces and the Jupiter, bringing that energy in. As the consciousness raises, then it will become basically it will be self-aware to all of us.
And I agree with you, Kathy, but I would also add a little thing there, because on one hand, the frequency is higher and people are more, and with Jupiter in Pisces, they will also be more compassionate, more generous,
Right.
sharing more. There will be a trust in abundance, that there's abundance for all, and I don't need to keep everything to myself to survive. On the contrary, that the more I share, the more I receive. But also, on the other hand, there's another part of the population where the consciousness is going down, because those people who are in fear, in anxiety, in guilt, in violence, this is a very, very low frequency. And what I'm seeing now, and this is very obvious in astrology also, and with the end of the Mayan calendar on the 21st of December 2012, and we are exactly 10 years later now, in the year 10 years later, there is a complete split in humanity. And now those who are believing the forces of evil and darkness, and now those who are going to the light and to enlightenment. So they are going to be, and sometimes those shifts, we can see them in our own family, in our own friends, and there's going to be no connection between those two groups.
Yeah, I agree with you, because it was channeled years ago by my friend Sally Baldwin that said the energy will continue to angst up, and there will be a lot of souls that make the choice not to stay here, to cycle off. And so that's another option, that souls on some level that we don't understand will make the decision, you know what, I think I'll come back next life.
And you know what? We have so many people. I have watched friendships dissolve that were friendships for years.
Yeah.
because of the belief system, not
Absolutely.
in good or bad, but they have taken their political beliefs and some of their scientific beliefs and turned them into a religion, and therefore common sense no longer dictates, because I have made so much out of this. If you're right, that means I'm wrong, and therefore I'm completely
Who
wrong and
am I?
nothing about me is
Who am
right.
I?
Yeah, who am I? So yeah, that's what I see. So many people, that's what scared me, and it's why I started Tarot with an Attitude, is that anchor to show people, wait a minute, there's more to this world than this. In the end of it, we're all going to be like, that's what you gave up your friends for. That's what we were killing people for, is over something stupid. Okay. And I believe that. I believe it's going to happen.
And
Hey,
I do,
Michelle,
Robin. Yeah.
Michelle,
And,
we're coming down to the end here.
oh,
This has been
really?
fantastic. I know, and we could go on for another hour. So I'd like to ask you, if Kathy reaches back out to you, would you come back? Because I got
I
questions I want
would
to
love
talk about.
to. I would
Okay.
love to. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I've got questions about how we connect numerology and with astrology and things like that. And we didn't even get there. And it was something very important I wanted to ask.
Okay.
But you know what? This has been awesome.
Thank you. This has been really fun. Thank you so much.
But
Give us the
before she
name.
goes, wait, but before she goes, she just did this deck, and I love it because I own it. As a matter of fact, the first card I'm using this for my newsletter every month, and the first card I drew was spiritual attunement. And I know that you drew one. I saw that on the email that you sent was about hold on, I don't have my glasses on. Enthusiastic inspiration. And I think that would be a great way to end if you could tell us just a little bit, because the drawings are amazing, the information is amazing, but it would seem like it would be a great way to end with enthusiastic inspiration.
I love it. Thank you. That was actually my confinement baby, because I used to travel so much. I was home 2 days and then I was on the road 5 days a week, every single week for years. I did that. I was giving conferences every weekend, and the confinement happened, and all of a sudden I'm at home and I'm thinking, okay, so what do I do now? And I had been contacted by my friend Danielle, who does amazing paintings, rock paintings, and he channels it. There's a whole story of how he does that, and it's incredible what he does. And and we were talking, and he said, I was thinking of doing a tarot deck. And I said, oh, so was I. And he said, well, why don't we join forces? I do the drawings and you do the astrology. And I said, what a cool idea. I love it. So that was my confinement baby. So I started doing, so it's like the planets in the elements, which is rather rare because usually you talk about the planets in the signs. So it's not just a bunch of whatever thrown on a card. It's really cosmically connected. And his mandalas are just exquisite. We took pictures of all the rock paintings he does. It takes him like 3 days to make one. And it's so detailed. And if you've ever painted on rocks, I dare you try and do what he does. I don't know how he does it. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And he's in Slovenia. He's a lovely, lovely person, very spiritual, very beautiful being. And actually we never met in person. We only met through Zoom, which was pretty cool. And he did the cards, and then I matched them with a sign, a planet in an element, and then I wrote the interpretation. And I really wanted this oracle to be like the I Ching, where you read, it's going to give you guidance. The oracle of the Chinese, it gives you guidance on how to approach a specific situation for the best possible outcome. So it's also something you can work on. For example, if you want to attract a good relationship, you would take all the cards of Venus in fire, Venus in earth, Venus in water, Venus in air, and keep a little journal on what talks to you, what could you develop more of, what you are already living, and you can use it in so many ways.
Can you share this card with us today, or do you want me to read it? Do you want to
please read it, because I haven't memorized my deck.
Okay, well, I have to read it. Because I don't know, but I marked it because I thought, oh, that might be a really nice way to end. I will
Wonderful.
put the card up for the camera so everybody can see not only the drawing, but which card it is. And let's see what it says. The
And
flame.
also the card, the drawing is also a meditation in itself. So before you even go to the words, you can already meditate and take in this beautiful mandala that
You
really
can,
carries
and if you
specific
put your
thoughts.
hand over it, you can actually feel the energy that's emanating. My hand is actually getting warm, so that's kind of cool. But we'll just read just a couple things. It says, the flames leap into the air, joyously cracking and dancing in the ardent reds, oranges, and yellows. The glowing fire warms our bodies in the winter and provides light in the depths of darkness. How interesting. It also cooks our meals, enabling us to enjoy foods that would otherwise go to waste. It purifies and nurtures, yet can also destroy, uncontained and excessive. It has the power to devour everything on its way, leaving a landscape of devastation. This situation is best approached with a renewed, trusting appetite for life. Seems like a good sort of a sound bite to end. The time has come for you to express your exuberance, cheerfulness, and positive energy. You're required to be courageous, positive, and hopeful. Your aspirations demand immediate, enthusiastic action. Your spontaneity pushes others to progress. Your leadership and organizational skills, fueled by your passion and creativity, inspire others to live life to the fullest.
Perfect. That's
With
perfect.
that, it seemed like a perfect way to end. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you so much, Rob. This was so much fun. I
love you. Thank you, Michelle.
Love you too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Michelle,
you.
it was great to meet you. Everybody check Michelle out, www.michellekarén.com. 2 L's, Michelle with 2 L's, okay? MichelleKarén.com. Also, remember, down below in the descriptions, you're going to find links to her books. We're going to have pictures of her books, different things she's done. It'll all be down there. Check it out. You don't want to miss it. Michelle, I'm going to say thank you for now. And, we'll catch up. Don't go away. I'm just going to put you in the room, let Kathy and I wrap up, okay? And then we'll come back to you. Just 1 second.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So that was Michelle Karén. We definitely have to have her back. I got so many questions I want on. Great guest, Kathy. Great guest.
I figured you'd like her.
Yeah.
So why don't we say goodbye to her and then we can finish.
We just did. That's what I'm saying. So we're going to cut some of this out. I'm going to trap it. That was our goodbye. She's done. Okay.
Good.
We're not going to bring her back in and out and all that. That's what when I say go to this part, go to that part, look.
Oh, so back in the green room, you're done.
Yep. Once you go back in the green room, but then I can end this recording. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording. Well, no, let's do this. So let's come up with so folks, that was Michelle. Okay. Kathy, great show. Thank you as always. I'm glad you're here,
And Rob, I think this actually helps for people to understand some things that are unexplainable, sometimes that we were influenced by our childhood, our parents, our grandparents. And she actually brought a lot of information to the table, and hopefully some of those open-minded people can take another look at astrology, right?
Absolutely. I agree. And if you have any questions, you have something that you want Kathy and I to address, to figure out, look at it as a topic, decodingourlives@gmail.com. Shoot us a message. We'd love to take a look at it. And then when we're discussing it, I'll try to get back to you and let you know when what day we're doing your topic, and you can be there. So until then, as I say on Tarot with an Attitude, bangarang, make your life happen. What do you got, Kathy?
Well, I was just going to say something about, decoding our lives and our lives decoding us.
That's it. That's it. Be who you are.
Yeah.
Be who you are. All right. So until next time, have a good time.
Goodbye, everybody.